So, a very good evening and welcome along to the show. And, we're all set to go for another fantastic week. Who have we got standing by in the wings at the minute, Marty?
Well, coming up later on, we have Paula Keane, who has been on before from the Belfast Whisky Festival with news of the Belfast Festive Whisky Festival, which he has put together. Tell us all the details about that. Tell us all about how the festival in August went, etc., etc.
All right, I'm looking forward to that myself because he's fizzling away in the background. And, well, let me see. He's walking around. I can see the lights. I tell you. And he's got the speaker on too. Oh, my gosh. If I was Nolan, I would have killed him already. Now, let me see what's happening first tonight on the show, because you've just come from a coffee morning. You're going weird on me, Marty. You're going weird on me.
If people had tuned in, Justin, they'd have seen me drinking coffee.
What's that all about?
Our friend Joe Shepherd has put together a show with a company called Coffee Dog, who brew or roast coffee and sell it online and stuff. So you want to talk about coffee and whiskey and how the similarities between them and tasting and all that kind of stuff. So check it out. It was interesting. It was good.
It was a wee bit different, I must admit. Well, what is first this week in whiskey then?
Well, we are going to do the news, Justin. So the big story this week has to be Blue Spot and the return of Blue Spot. For anyone who doesn't know, the Spot whiskey range, this is Green Spot. You get Green Spot, Blue Spot now, Yellow Spot, and Red Spot. And I'm going to show you something. This is a hard out life I have, but this is the press pack sent out. And when they sent it out, if I can open it, they sent out this. At which point I got on email and said, there's one missing, because here is, as you can see, the full family all together, missing one. But the day before the official launch, they arrived over with this one. So the family is reunited. So I haven't got around to tasting it. I know this is one of the most eagerly anticipated whiskies recently, but I haven't got around to tasting them because I haven't really had time. It was my birthday this week, Justin.
Did you expect me to send you some whiskey or something like that there?
I haven't even got a card. So I'm
but I don't do birthdays because I'm very, very, very close to a big one. The big 3-0.
Yeah. Very close to it. You're getting it on the second way around, are you? Blue Spot, the spots refer to the daubs of paint that Mitchell's, who were the blending house, the bonding house, used to put on it to indicate the age of it. It's been 56 years since Blue Spot was last recorded. Now, the cask, it's a 7-year-old cask strength pot still whiskey. It's non-chill filtered, and its ABV is going to change every annually.
Right. Okay.
It's bourbon, sherry, and Madeira cask, and it's 59.2%. And it was retailing for £80 a bottle. It sold out in literally minutes. I think there's a lot of people would have been buying it to flip it, as they talk about, so buying it for their collection or just to basically put it straight onto an auction. But it's been released. It's going to be part of their core range. It's going to sit alongside the other three. And it was hashtag Spot Family Reunited, I think it was. But
okay,
it's sold quick. Now, also this week, another Cologne bottling, an Imperial Oat Stout cask finish of their experimental series. This is the penultimate one, so there's only one more to go. And again, sold out extremely quickly. So for a 500 cl bottle or 50 cl bottle, £80, it sold out literally in very little time at all. I think in a day.
But these aren't instances of them just releasing it just to make a fast buck. In this case, it's not really that scenario.
No, it's not. What's happening is people are buying these because people are wanting to collect Irish whiskey, and some people are buying them just to have them in their collection. But they've become really, really sought after. So it kind of feeds into the same thing. People are buying them to collect. Other people want to buy them to drink. So they know if I don't buy them, these guys are going to get them, stick them themselves somewhere. So they buy them. And it's this sort of cat and mouse a bit because people don't have to go to an auction site and pay twice the price for it.
Right.
2 months from now or a month from now. I mean, Waterford, who we're going to be talking to hopefully this week, they suffered. All their stuff was bought up really, really quickly and then found its way onto the auction sites where 1 month after Waterford released one of their single farm bottlings, there was, I think, 106 bottles for sale on one auction site. And it's like, they weren't getting any more money for it. In fact, it's probably by the time you take postage and stuff and fees, it's probably going to cost them money. But that's what people are doing. But these sold out really quickly. I have Hinch here. Hinch, on the 9th of November, ran their stills for the first time.
Wow.
Last week we said about them christening their stills and putting whiskey in the stills. This week they actually ran them. Now, I want to make a little reference. On the day they ran the stills, I reviewed this whiskey. Hinch Peated. I really like this.
Right? And you got your knuckles wrapped.
Well, what happened was, when I review a whiskey, when I give it a number, it's only a sort of arbitrary number. It's an indication of how much I like it on that particular day. If I try it maybe another day, I can maybe knock the mark off or up or whatever. Now, when I judge a whiskey, I'm not judging it purely by the spirit because I don't think that's really fair. If I want to do that, just set up blind taste tests, mix them around and see which one you prefer, whatever. What I'm thinking of, do I like the packaging? Do I like the bottling, the branding? Do I like the story behind it? Is it value for money? So it was compared. I gave that the same mark as I gave Midleton's recent release. Now, I did put a little caveat when I was talking about the mark. I said, jokingly, I'll give it an extra point because it's their birthday. Okay? So it wouldn't have got the same mark the next day, you know?
Right. You can do what you like. It's your birthday.
It was its birthday. It was Hinch's birthday, 3 days before mine. And they never even got a card off you either. I'll just note. But the thing about it is, that's £32 a bottle or £34 a bottle. The Midleton is £200 a bottle, or best part of it. Now, that's getting a plus point because of how cheap it is and how good it is. So that's a factor. The birthday was a factor, and it all went up. So it's not just the liquid. If you just take the liquid, you're not really buying into the whole story of the bottling. So if you want to just judge liquids, that's fair enough. But I have to buy into the story, otherwise it's not part of it. You're not getting the full experience. That's how I judge whiskey. So I just hope to clear that up. So if anybody thinks I think that's as good as Midleton, it's not as good as the Midleton, but for marks overall, it gets that. Okay.
I get the way you're marking. Yes, it's a positive marking scheme, not a negative marking scheme.
Well, put it like this: if you read or listen to the one I did about Grant's signature release or whatever it is, that's a negative mark. It's bloody awful. It's atrocious. But we will not dwell on that. It's the worst whiskey I ever tasted. What horrific. But it's still got a point for being cheap. So there you go. Anyway, moving on. Item number 2 on the news, Justin. We're going to Belfast and the Thompson's Dry Dock, which you and I both know very well.
Yep.
Now, an application at the pre-planning stage is to turn the cafe, restaurant and pump house into a distillery and a tourist centre. Titanic Distillers Limited, is linked to Peter Lavery, who won £10 million on the lottery. Remember a few years ago?
I do. He's a big DeLorean fan as well.
Yeah, he's a bus driver from East Belfast, and he won £10 million. And he's behind the project, sort of a little bit behind the project, if you like. It's being run by Norland Venture Capital, who also run a racing team. Now, it's in the old Thompson's Dry Dock pump house, which was opened as a cafe. Unfortunately, it closed at the start of last year. But you and I have both been in. It's the place where Titanic was fitted out. It's a fabulous space sitting down there. It's going to add to that whole Queen's Island area, so down where Titanic Belfast is.
Where you've got We Are Vertigo, HMS Caroline, the oldest, the second oldest ship in the British Navy. Yeah, really good thing. Yeah.
So it's going to be real positive. Now, Peter Lavery had tried to open a distillery in a wing of Crumlin Road Jail, and that project fell away. But he had already released this. So Titanic, 5-year-old and a 10-year-old, and also Old Danny Boy, about your boy. Never know what single to put us off, Justin. No, I bought that. I've never opened it because it's probably a bit of a collectible now because, well, I haven't opened it, but the Titanic, I've opened it. Now, these are quite rare. They're quite collectible now too. But that project all fell away. So now he's moved down to the Titanic pump house, which could be very good, Justin.
Yes, certainly will be good when tourism gets back on its feet here as well. Now, Titanic whiskey is not the only news story you've got tonight, but a man who was around at the time of the Titanic. He was around for a long time. Next.
Yes. Now, I have to put this in. Sotheby's, the auction house, are auctioning off a painting by Sir Winston Churchill. Now, it was painted in the 1930s, and it's called Jug with Balls. It clearly shows one of his favourite tipples, Johnny Walker. Now, on the listing, it says Churchill had his first taste of whiskey in India, where he wrote in the 1890s, the water was not fit to drink. To make it palatable, we had to add whiskey, and by diligent effort, I learned to like it.
I know, he's a bit of a character, he's a bit of a wit, wasn't he?
Really, his talents were endless. I recently, Shadow wrote a book for someone, and she just fell in love with him because he was. I'll give you a story. I'd heard this before, but she was telling me about it. Back in April 1943. Now, this is slap bang in the middle of the Second World War. You would have thought Churchill probably had more on his mind, but no. Churchill demanded that the Prime Minister of Australia would send him over a duck-billed platypus so that he could put it in London Zoo to boost morale. Now, they had a law that said that they weren't allowed. It's a bit like pandas today, that you weren't allowed to take platypuses outside Australia. So, but he basically bullied them into sending one over. So what was it they called it? Platyplarium or something he called it. I can't remember, but it was just hilarious. And they sent over a duck-billed platypus and 50,000 worms to feed it.
All right. We actually have a eucalyptus tree up there to feed koalas. If anybody ever wants to send me a koala from Australia, is it Julia Gillard? Send me a koala or something like that. Always wanted a wee koala. I thought he was maybe going to do a Mountbatten and actually call the battleships cruisers so that he could put missiles in them. You know, that old routine, you know, say it was something completely different.
But I was sure he was the guy that named tanks. Whenever Churchill was basically oversaw the project to build tanks, and to disguise what they were, he told everybody they were water tanks. That's where the name came from. But during the Second World War, this is another thing about it. During the Second World War, there was grain shortages. So the government was going to shut down distilleries and stop whiskey production. Churchill had a bit of a fit about this, and he actually said, "You can't shut them down because they're a big export, and it takes a lot. It takes a long time to make it." So he saved whiskey at that point too. A remarkable man. And
it's a bit like the off licenses were shut for the first 2 days of the lockdown, and they had to reopen again. But anyway, we've got a festive story before we get to the penultimate story. Before we get to Paul O'Kane's fantastic festive whiskey week.
Yes, now if you are in the US of A, and I know we have a few people who watch the show that live stateside, you can enter a competition to win a Jameson Christmas tree. Okay? It's 8 foot 6 inches and is made of 130 bottles of Jameson. Now, there's only 7 of these, and to win it, you have to enter a competition where you have to write, I think it's 500 words, or 200 words maybe, on why you deserve to win this Christmas tree. Now, just for your information, the bottles are empty. So it's not as good a prize as one would have hoped, but yeah. So it is quite a magnificent thing, I'm sure. It looks the part if you ever see it.
Right. Yes, it looks fantastic. It looks fantastic. It really does. It really does. So before we get to Paul O'Kane, who's I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I'm going to go to his work and close my mouth. That's what I'm going to do. He's actually making me sick. He's spinning around in the chair. I can see all of this off screen. Wait until he comes on. I thought it was in the Starship Enterprise there. Listen, we've got one more story, and it's very, very relevant to everything that's happening at the minute.
100% relevant. Now, anyone who's been following our local government and just how absolutely atrocious they have been all week, just unbelievable, blindingly incompetent and really pathetic. But an MLA from South Belfast, Matthew O'Toole, was discussing and debating the licensing laws in Northern Ireland and just how ridiculously archaic and stupid they are. I'll give you an example. He talked on air all about the wonderful distilleries and the brewing tradition and the distillery tradition. You know, he mentions Dundel's and the Watts distillery up in Derry. Currently, some of these have tap rooms, you know, where you can go in and get a little sample of what they do. But the only way they're actually allowed those is if it's an extension of a local pub or they have a full pub license.
Right. Yeah.
You can make Bushmills whiskey, but they have to have a pub license to sell it. You know, it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. The pub will license these small breweries and distilleries to have like a dozen functions a year. It's an extension of their pub license. Now, he's talking about new proposals propose that if you do a tour, you're allowed a single drink at the end of it. Now, that's just ridiculous. Absolutely mind-blowingly stupid. You know, this is a growth industry. And they're penalising it. You and I have both led tours into Bushmills, where people have walked into the shop and said, I'm not buying anything here because I can get it much cheaper at home. It's madness. Absolute madness. Now, the fact that he's highlighted this and campaigning on behalf of the hospitality and the whiskey and the beer and the alcohol industry.
He's a young fella. Maybe he's been out to San Francisco or traveled the world, but he seems to be saying the right things, which other countries do. I mean, I think even some country in the Middle East has made alcohol legal. We're the home of it, and we can't even do it right.
It's ridiculous. I mean, if you go somewhere, you expect. I'm at Bushmills. I expect to be able to buy a bottle of Bushmills for less than I can buy it in California, but that's not true. You know, when people come over, you and I have both led tours into Bushmills where people just went, well, no, why would I buy it here? It's cheaper to buy it home.
Yeah,
which is just madness. So, yeah, the laws should be changed to reflect today's society, and good on them for bringing that up. So, Justin, that is this week's news.
That's it all over. And we'll get on to the good bit. The good bit. Stand by. Anything can happen in the next half hour. He's getting the 3-second warning. Here he comes. There he is. He's there. He's live with us. He's grew a beard in lockdown.
Oh, no, you a beard. It's more like fluff, but this is sort of held out a bit.
He said there's a good bit. Where's the good bit? Is that me? Am I the good bit?
You're the good bit. You are the good bit.
You are too kind. The two of you are too kind. And here, I'm loving those wee stories, Marty. They're just, you know, see the snippets. The wee stories are just great. You know?
I know.
We've got a couple of real crackers coming up. We've been many people doing interviews and stuff, and we've got a couple of real crackers coming up.
I was like the wee bit there about, well, obviously about the new distillery. Well, the idea of the pump house. Now, Peter Lavery kindly invited me down to have a look at the pump house during lockdown, and obviously I said to him, we'll just wait for the right time. But look, he's been plying the idea of a whiskey distillery for going on 6-7 years. You know, so the fact that he ran into trouble up at the jail, and he now needs to look somewhere else. He's super excited. And he's got the Titanic brand, he's got the Danny Boy stuff, and he's actually released really recently little miniatures. You might have seen them as well, tiny wee miniatures saying black, the black Titanic on them. And do you know what? I hope that comes to fruition, because we just want to see distilleries in Belfast. There's no doubt that we want them, and the city's crying out for them. And you know, a big thing for the festivals is having distilleries. You know what I mean? Having liquid, you know, flowing through the streets again of Belfast. That's very important. So
yeah,
that again, it's another thing that's in a small location that you can easily get people to go to Titanic Belfast, walk down, when they're even just walking down past, they see Caroline, they'll see the cranes, down into the distillery, and that whole area. Just, I mean, a few years ago it was a wasteland, and now look at it. You know,
I know.
super.
Do you know what? I was actually down there today delivering for Belfast Whisky Club. I suppose that's slightly different, but for Belfast Whisky Club, for one of our tastings, one of our club members is on a boat. He works on a boat constantly, and he's always out at sea. And he was actually docked today, so I drove down and gave him his samples. But you know, it's such a changed scape over the last 5, 6, 7 years. It's changing constantly. Beautiful buildings going up, beautiful hotels even, and yeah, the visitor attractions, that HMS Caroline, which is down there, the Titanic building itself, there is just so much potential, and it will be nice to see a distillery. Sure, why not? But, and hopefully we get one at the jail, hopefully we get another one in the city centre. Hopefully they come together, because we've got all these ones. I mean, look at Hinge. I mean, look how beautiful that place looks. I cannot wait to walk into that place next week, or whenever I can, and it's just looking amazing.
I got a look round it in the end of January. It wasn't finished, and I got a look at the layout and stuff, but they were working away at it then, and it's a fantastic space. It's really. When I was reviewing the Hinge during the week, I said that lots of distilleries, they're on a really tight budget to start with, and they're trying to do everything piecemeal just because of the business model. But Terry has just lumped the money in to start with. The money has put in to start with, so it's up and running on a big scale straight away. And you can tell, I mean, the branding and stuff's fantastic. It looks really good.
Oh my God. And do you know what? I hope I'm not like their playboy, but when I talk about this, it's quite specific. They have just run through their their cask scheme, and it went public last week. And I'll be frank, we've had a couple over the last number of years, and you've just looked at them and gone, not worth the money, not worth putting money into for your own personal use. Well, we've had a couple in the last couple of weeks. Dingle put out a really good one. We've now had Hinge putting out something which is really exciting. So I think they're doing some really good work. But I'm looking at the aesthetics of all these distilleries we have. Bushmills is gorgeous, beautiful. Hinge, stunning. Just like what I think of like one of these beautiful Scottish distilleries. It mirrors that in some respects and then gives more. You've got Ecklenville. I mean, Ecklenville's very pretty. Wait until that house is available to live in, for the weekend, so you can go and get drunk at the distillery. Unbelievable. But even Copeland's. I know Copeland is very, very small, but it's stunning. I mean, if you go inside there, Marty, it just looks the part. It's lovely to see.
I mean, even the Radaman Estate. I know they haven't their whiskey out yet, but it's had its birthday. It's ready to go. I mean, it's just jaw-droppingly good. It's absolutely beautiful.
100%, and again, that's what I'm saying. We have some of the prettiest distillery. I mean, actual visually. So yeah, David's done really well down there. That's absolutely brilliant. No, it really is.
We're actually small enough that you could actually go to these. You could go to 2 or 3 distilleries in a day. If you were in Belfast, you could literally go to 3-4 distilleries, no problem, and drive and do a circuit. It's all there.
I hope your audience understands that. I hope your audience, because I know how much of a reach you're now getting. People from all over the world listen to your program. I hope they understand, if they were to come to Belfast specifically, there is a plethora of distilleries and locations they can go to experience whiskey. And yeah, obviously all the bars that we have, but genuinely those other places that we can take them and have some fun with. You guys are really so welcoming about Belfast Whisky Week. You were just so welcoming. I'm noticing that comment from Dave, but
well, I'm gonna get to that. He says, "Paul the magician."
I'm a magician.
I thought you were a dentist, but what?
No, no. Hold on. The caveat here is I'm not a dentist. I own a dental practice. We keep that. We keep that limit.
You drive a Volvo. You look like a dentist. You're a dentist. Paul Magician, what's he got up his sleeve tonight? What do you have up your sleeve tonight?
There's plenty of things happening. There's plenty of things happening. Do you know what we did? Because the festival was so good, we had a lot of people talking about the festival. We had a lot of people commenting on lots of different things. And one of the things was it gave people, because of the lockdown situation, because of the situation we were in at that point, it just gave people a bit of hope. It gave people something to do.
Yeah.
And I looked at that again, and I looked at the situation we're still in, thinking, we're not moving quickly. We're not getting anywhere. And I thought, see, over Christmas, big thing for me over Christmas, my mummy passed away a couple of years ago, right? But a big thing for Christmas for me was getting to see people. Not just that, but going and driving around. I would have driven hundreds of miles to go and see people over Christmas, driving here, there, and everywhere. And I used to think to myself, that ain't happening this year. These things are not happening. People are not going to be able to go and do that. They're also not going to be, and one of the things we're all going to miss probably, is going to the pub for that pint, going for that Christmas drink with your colleagues and your friends, doing all that. And I thought to myself, do you know what, there's a lull. There's going to definitely be a big period between Christmas and New Year where people are just going to be like, I don't know what to do with myself. And I'm assuming, and I know there's a lot of bars in Belfast, even though they might be given the green light for next week, they're not going to be opening. So there's not, we have a lot of bars who have said, listen, you can tell us, we can open, but we're not going to open because it's not going to make us, any money. We're past that now. So I thought, let's create something. Let's create a little mini festival, a very, very small festival within that period. Get some boxes out to people, little festive touches, and allow people to enjoy themselves through that period. So I agreed to do 10 different mini events, and that would be small live sessions. We've got a couple of comedians, a couple of singers as well to make it let people tune in and have a bit of fun. But it's actually just it will be 8 tastings, and those tastings are, they'll be bespoke, and yeah, and a lot of them include a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. So it'll include new whiskies that have come out. It's going to include the new Bushmills liquid. It's going to include the new Blue Spot. There's a new Redbreast that came out, which is a 30-year-old Redbreast. There's lots of really high-end products in there, hopefully at a really competitive price. And what I mean by that is that they're all at cost price. So if people look at the boxes and they look at the measures that are in it, they'll go, well, that's cost price. I mean, if you were to total that up, that's what it is. In fact, there's 2 or 3 of the boxes are, if you were to buy it in a bar, you're maybe talking about £1,000 odd in a bar, and we're dropping that right down. We're bringing that just to the price of the bottles. And yeah, there's a gin one in there as well, because we know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm a gin drinker, and I was like, well, let's have a look at Northern Irish and an Irish gin, and let's put that in there. And then there's a rum box as well, because there were a couple of guys who are like, I suppose we've got rum being made locally, but so we've got the guys at Copeland, we've got the guys at Cologne doing some rum, and I thought, do you know what, we'll put on a rum box also. But yeah, do you know what? It was, and it is about still just giving people an out, giving people, something to do, and that's what it's about. I mean, there's a beautiful community out there, Marty, and you know this, and your viewers are, getting them involved in the festival is absolutely brilliant, and we know that there's a community out there who will get involved and be online and want to do it. I should caveat by saying we put it out as a pre-order, so I put the message out there to say to people here, what about a pre-order? And I would say 90% of the boxes went on a pre-order. They're not being sold yet until Wednesday. So
wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, they don't go for sale until Wednesday specific, because I just put it out there as a pre-order just to see what people's thoughts were on the certain types of boxes. And yeah, I was just shocked by the response. The response was huge, and yeah, when it goes for a physical sale, we'll see what happens. But I think that I took a note of everyone's names and contacted people, and there's a lot of people still contacting me saying, "Here, is there any space for these boxes?" I'm like, well, maybe, I don't know. Hopefully, there's space.
Give us an example of one of the boxes or a couple of the boxes, actually, because I know that they've all got different sort of themes.
Yeah.
So give us a...
The idea is that they are themed. I mean, there's, we're looking at one box is purely cask strength, so just purely cask strength whiskies, and I thought about that because there's a couple of us who have been for years. We just keep on saying cask strength whiskey. It's a hashtag that's managed to go around social media constantly now. There's a campaign, cask strength whiskey campaign, and that's what it was about. It was about making sure that only whiskies that were cask strength went in there. So they are big hitting whiskies, big pricey whiskies that have come into a box to make it as reasonably priced as possible. Something that's attainable for people, and particularly whiskies that they're not actually, because they're sold out and people are flipping them and people are doing whatever with them. I'm all about pouring them, and it's about buying them to pour them to get them drunk. So we've got the cask strength box. We've got a plus 12-year-old, which is every whiskey in there is over 12 years old. We have there's a premium pack, and again, it's looking at those ones that maybe are very difficult to go and find. New releases, so we're aware there's a couple of new releases in there. Hinch, there's a new Hinch bottle in there, which isn't on your slideshow yet, but so there's different. Oh, thanks very much, Justin. Yeah, there's every box is on either the Facebook page or the Instagram page, and it will go through every individual bottling on there. There's some bottles there that say unknown, and that's because, and I've given wee hints as to what they're finished in or what the ages are, and that's because I want to have a bit of surprise, a bit of secrecy about some of those bottles. Because do you know what? We want to put things in there that people haven't tasted. We still want to be that. Which was really good at the festival itself it was a lot of new stuff, a lot of new product, and it was a lot of people getting the chance to taste things for the first time. There's a really one of the boxes is truly crazy, which is a mystery box, and that is people have been messaging me saying, "What is in it?" And I'm like, Well, it's a mystery box. You're not going to find out till you get it. But what I would say, and I've given them titles, I've given them things like it's reindeer juice or something or whatever it is, right? But, I'm having a wee bit of fun. What people need to be knowing about that is I'm not going to give them crap. It's going to be good whiskey. It's just going to be, you're unknown till you get it, until you get the box. And look, the boxes we're using, Marty, the boxes, we got some review from the boxes we put out at the festival. These ones we're using are the wooden, the bespoke wooden boxes. So they come in bamboo wood boxes. They come with 2 glasses as well. All the bottles are labelled the numbers 24 through to 1. So you can start drinking on Christmas Eve and finish on New Year's Day. So kind of reverse Christmas calendar. That's what I was looking at. I was like, I don't want to do a Christmas calendar. I want to do something a little bit different. So it's a reverse, and you can do it in your own time or join, because there's 50ml samples. If you want to drink a little bit and then savour it for the tasting, do it. If you join the tasting, join the tasting. If you don't join the tasting, who cares? You've got a beautiful Christmas gift. So in fact, I would say the gin box, the amount of people that have contacted me, that gin box could have gone 2 or 3 times, I reckon, because the amount of people have said, really want that. It's very good value for money,
Vic Cameron saying, yes, another Scot on the Irish Whiskey Show. That's where the word Irish comes from.
Thank you, Vic. It's good to be here. Do you know what? I feel privileged being on any show, and I do mean that. I feel privileged. It was very kind of Marty and Justy to get me on. Have I lost them, or have I lost myself?
No, you haven't lost them. I control it. You haven't. You're still here. You're still here. You're still
there. Is it my
screen? Your screen's just timed out at your end. You're still live with us. If anybody would like to ask you a question, get in touch. People are amazed. We're well into double figures watching at the minute. Vic's show last week, 4,000 people tuned in. 4,000 people tuned in last week and seen him. I don't know what happened there. He's dropped off, Marty.
He's maybe resetting, Justin. This is the problem with going live.
Yeah,
whenever we go live, we always have
anything can happen. And he's not. You're now upside down.
I'm back.
You're back. I don't know what happened to you there at all.
I was just saying thank you very much to Vic. I was being really nice to Vic there. I was like, thank you very much, Vic, for being the best guy ever and talking about me. Is that better? I'm no longer upside down.
You're no longer upside down. But everybody at home thinks there's an earthquake because your computer's moving like that. There, you see.
Here. Sorry about that. Listen, I'm just humbled by being invited on. I just think it's great, to have these conversations because,
but like, whenever you've got someone like Vic watching the show, and he was on last week,
right.
I mean, the wealth of knowledge that man has is phenomenal. I can totally vouch for his courses, and the fact that he's actually watching, I do sort of regret that it's someone with a Scottish accent and he has to rub it into us. But
here, listen, that is good. Here, Justin, I don't know all of your figures, but I'm assuming you guys have grown over the last couple of weeks. I really love what you've done. You've done the whole thing. You've been sending out samples of some of the liquids you've been talking about as well. That's been absolutely brilliant.
Well, one of the things we're trying to do, we're trying to get people to send out samples, and we don't want brand ambassadors on while they're doing the tastings, because it's a bit too much teacher in the room. Everybody, coming on and going, well, and all they do is say, oh, this is wonderful, this is wonderful. I want people to come around if they don't like it, just to say they don't like it.
Right, Marty, we had a tasting on Thursday night with the Bushmills. Now, the Whisky Club itself purchases most, in the main, will purchase its own whiskey. It doesn't take freebies. It just doesn't normally do that. That's not something. So it was the same with Bushmills. No freebies. We'll buy the Bushmills. But we invited the ambassadors onto the call. We brought in Seamus Lowry. We brought in Lauren. 2 of them are absolutely brilliant. But we made them drink other stuff. So it wasn't just.
Yeah.
So we made them drink. Some. What did we have? We had some 1980s Glendullan 12-year-old. We had Ezra B 12-year-old Bourbon, and a 21-year-old Longmorn. And in between that, we had the new 12-year-old Asian Bushmills, the Marsala release. And then,
Yes.
and then we had the two new Irish versions, the 2008 and the 1995. And and it was just honest and raw. And I don't think I'm not sure if Seamus and Lauren knew what they were really coming into, because we must have about 25 people on the call, tasting, and they were very, very vocal about the Bushmills liquid, So, but it was a good tasting. But no, I do appreciate what you're doing there. That is important. There's a lot of good ambassadors out there, Martin. It's even good to have them on, even if you're not drinking a liquid, to come on and just talk about their stuff. You know what I mean?
See, the idea is we'll get them on, we'll let people come on, we'll do interviews and all that kind of stuff. But I don't want particularly them looking over the shoulder at people while they're doing the tasting and telling blah 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 blah. So I want to find that nice balance where people who are watching can partake. We pick a number of people at random and send out bottle or samples. But we've got some scotches. We've got a scotch heading out we did an interview 2 weeks ago for a guy from River Rock. And I like what they're doing because they're trying to do it as environmentally friendly as possible and that kind of stuff. And to get that on, we'll get the samples heading out from there. Now, I know it's the Irish whiskey review, but you know yourself, whiskey's it's a big global family. People are coming for it. Irish people are going to the States and opening distilleries. There's people from the States coming over. There's Scottish head distillers, Graham down in Dingle, etc., etc. There's a big global family.
Yes.
So, and it's a very small world, really. I mean, the fact I was talking to Vic last week, and he said, "Oh, I'm coming to the Hinch down to do the thing," and Graham down there's we've lost one of the best distillers in Scotland. He's went to Dingle from Glenmorangie, and it's not a big family. Everybody kind of knows everything. If you don't know something, there's probably somebody that does know him.
No, you're quite right. And here the guys that first of all, Graham and Dave down at Dingle are just unreal. No, I mean they're just some crack. You do have some of the ambassadors we have, and yes, some of the blenders, distillers we have are very open, even to criticism. And what we've had in the past over the last 5 years, whenever we do have someone coming from a distillery, is that they have to be told quite specifically. Hi, don't worry.
Listen,
all right, Dave.
We're getting great questions in.
Graham will not stand for that. But I'm just saying, just to finish that bit off about the guys who come on to our club tastings, they have to be aware that the people are honest. So we've had some ambassadors that have taken really low scores for the whiskies, And here, just like you were saying at the start there about maybe someone having a wee, I don't know, there's some guys out there who write maybe a column, maybe a blog, maybe they write something and they'll score a whiskey based on their taste and their preferences and everything else. And some people will take umbrage with what they've written. It's a completely different issue if you get 20 people in the room drinking a whiskey and they give you scores at the time, and you then have a collective score of 20 odd people, because that puts it in perspective. That makes you think about your whiskey. So and it really does. And actually, I think the ambassadors that come on, they're only going to come on knowing, they have to come on knowing that that's what's going to happen, but they have to come on knowing that as well, to take the heartache, if there's heartache to be given,
We know. I always want to find, especially for local distilleries. I mean, everyone has their inherent biases, and I always want to see the positive, because I know how much hard work goes into a lot of this stuff. Sometimes I don't think people appreciate that. But there's whiskies, where they start to cut corners, and this as well as I do. They're buying in cheap casks, and and it's just to try and get the stuff out. I mean, we can taste that. So when they don't do that, when they're putting a bit of extra effort in, when they're investing the money and investing the time and doing the stuff right, you might not think the spirit's fabulous at the end of it, but you can appreciate what it is they're actually doing. And for me, you have to take that into account. You have to, because it's very easy to just say, don't like the whiskey. But what's the brand? No, take the story. Because if you don't take the story of whiskey, look, so you might as well just go and drink vodka or something, because you're missing out on a huge part of whiskey. You know?
Well, listen, we've got questions in from Canada here, from Prince Edward Island. A regular viewer, Geordie Burke, says, "Hi, Paul. Now, we've been through this before with you a couple of months ago. Where are you from? Answer on a postcard, Scotland, originally Scotland. And how the hell did you get into whiskey at first?" He married a woman from Ireland, Northern Ireland. So there you go.
For the passport.
Justin's answering very quickly on the postage stamp. I'm originally from a place just outside of Lanark. So the closest town to me is Lanark. Interesting enough, for everyone around the world who doesn't know where Lanark is, it's the place where they killed William Wallace's wife and child. If you've watched the film Braveheart, there you go.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at that. Nicola was saying the people after me, but I just thought the way you put that was very funny.
And
very funny.
I think getting into whiskey, I mean, look, I'd have been a pretentious person. I think I've mentioned this before. I'd have been one of those guys that just put their hands up and said, "Can I have that whiskey up there, which is, maybe a 25-year-old something? Can I drink it?" Usually Macallan. Anything aged Macallan, I would have been asking for, at a young age, in bars and clubs, thinking I was absolutely brilliant. And it's only to the death of my grandfather that I kind of have a different look on whiskey and a change on whiskey, and I start to understand that actually whiskey is a value. And once I realise whiskey is a value and it's a commodity as well, then it changes my perception of the whiskey. And yeah, lots of things stem from that. It's about tasting whiskies. And then I start collecting whiskies, and then we move on to running a whiskey club, which is phenomenal insofar as that you just get to drink so much whiskey sensibly, without getting absolutely rat-assed. And that's the difference, isn't it? I now drink whiskey to taste it, to understand it, to feel it, to be emotionally attached to it, rather than to drink it to think I'm some sort of smart arse that can afford it and also get drunk on it.
Talking of smart arses, Michael Matthews said, "Did that not happen in Trim?"
But good on you, Michael. Good on you. Yes.
I've been to Trim Castle.
It was not at Trim. It was definitely Lanark.
No. That's where doubled for Lanark. That in the movie it was shot in Trim. It was shot in Trim. It wasn't really Scotland. You didn't know the difference, but.
Hold on. All I know is that the man has, what's it called? Mel Gibson. That's the worst accent I've ever heard on, I mean, there's some guys that put in really bad Scottish accents, but that was really bad.
Wasn't there one in the paper this week, an Irish accent? It was who was getting slagged off for their Irish accent, Marty? Can you remember?
I've seen it, Justin, but for me, far and away, Tom Cruise's Irish accent takes the basket. There hasn't been a worse Irish accent ever. I mean, even people from Cork don't have as bad an Irish accent as Tom Cruise has.
Well, Geordie Burke was asking there because his family's originally from Kirkcaldy. So there you go.
It's Kirkcaldy.
I'm not saying it right.
Kirkcaldy, which is
Kirkcaldy. No. It's Kirkcaldy.
No, Kirkcaldy's over on the east coast, up above Edinburgh. Above Edinburgh, and it's in it's in the Kingdom of Fife. It's a Fife.
Oh, I've been to Fife. I've been to Fife, but there you
go.
Totally
different dialect, eh? Totally different. They talk with ease out there, and I don't talk like that. That's how they talk in Fife.
Yeah,
accent. Just saying.
I don't know why. If there was an Equal Opportunities Commission, you could go to it with the slagging you're getting tonight.
Let's take one. Listen, I take a slagging all the time. Makes no difference.
Jamie Dornan, he's from Down.
His accent, Jesus, God love him. He's from the north, and yet he has put in some accents, hasn't he? He's an American accent. Do you know who I was listening to just the last couple of days? Your boys on the golf, Rory McIlroy. And Justin, what's his last name? Anyway,
Rhodes, is it?
Their accents were awful. Like they've lost touch.
You mean Graham McDowell? No, Graham McDowell.
Graham McDowell's is even worse. Graham McDowell, you'd think he was based in, I think he was from Hollywood.
No, Rory McIlroy is from Hollywood, but Hollywood County Down.
Because I know.
Listen, this is turning into a golf show. I'm going to have to switch off. I hate golf.
Paul, I'm going to have to ask you a question. Me and Justin have this numerous times.
Yes.
Whiskey neat or whiskey cocktails? Would you take Justin's approach and have a sparkler, wee umbrella, wee the cherries and maybe an olive or something? Would you ever drink something like that? And if you were, what cocktail would you drink?
Do you know what, Justin? I appreciate a good cocktail, so I'm going to say like I do.
He's with me.
But I'd start with whiskey neat all day long. So I'd start with a whiskey neat, and do you know what? See, by the end of the night, I would be on cocktails. I have no issues with cocktails at all. So if I'm going out and I'm having a wee drink in the bars and the clubs and whatever, 100% on the cocktails. And yeah, penicillin. So I'd take a penicillin. I would take a lot of the kind of old stuff, so old fashions, anything like that. But I would say I've now moved on to using whiskey in cocktails that I make myself. So I go into the likes of the Clothier. Now, obviously, during shutdown, I've not really been able to do that. But I've had a lovely relationship since they've reopened. I'd walk in and say, just make me a cocktail. Put something in it. Go ahead. So if I'm having a non-alcoholic cocktail, I just say, no alcohol, give me something special. And then I say, put whiskey in it, give me something with whiskey. So no, I like a good cocktail.
I can see face. I can see Justin's face. When's the Clothier opening? He's thinking, when is the Clothier opening?
No, it's Birch Jazz Bar is my favourite, actually. But
oh, really?
But here we go. I don't even like jazz, but I do like their John Halton, who is probably from Australia. He says, do an Australian accent for us. Show Gibson you can switch it up.
Yeah, now, John's a good lad. John is a good lad. So John actually got involved with the Whiskey Festival. There you go. So look, we reached 15 countries around the world with the Whiskey Festival. 15 countries. That was a lot of countries. We were in Singapore, Australia, Argentina, Mexico, Canada, USA, lots of states in the USA, and then parts of Europe. Do you know what I mean? So he's asking for all right, mate. Put the prawn on the barbie. It's not shrimp. It's put the prawn on the barbie. You know what I mean? So yeah, I could do Australian all day long. That'd be dead on. I could live there.
No Crocodile Dundee was in the room there. I've had a look round in case he had a big knife.
No, he would appreciate that.
Well, listen, we've only got about 10 minutes left. We want to run through where they can sign up for Belfast Festive Whiskey Week. But Marty and me, I've got a surprise to tell you, because we're actually number 15 in Colombia for downloads. So we're in more than 15 countries. We're number 15 in Colombia. No, we got that. Honestly, we're number 15 of all food and drink blogs in Colombia, of all places.
You know what? See if we can get. Do you know what? I will check if we can get whiskey to Colombia. We will do that. There's no doubt about it. If we can get the parcels out to Colombia, we shall do that. Do you know what I mean?
You heard first, Pablo. We can get them out. No bother.
no bother. We've got. I'm reading some of that. Mark Kerr. Jesus, God love you. Not nice at all. Not nice. Look, the website will be the same, so it's still Belfast Whiskey Week. That website is still live. It goes for sale. All those boxes will go on sale Wednesday, I believe, and I'll put that out on the Facebook and the Instagram pages, and people can sign up to it and pay for their boxes at that point. I expect those, and the delivery for those boxes are between the 1st and the 8th of December. So they'll be out nice and early, particularly if you're going to give them as presents to someone else. They're out well before Christmas, and you can do what you like with them. But they'll only go on sale for a couple of days. They'll go on sale on the Wednesday, and I believe they stop again on the Monday. So you've only got a couple of days to actually purchase them. We're going to make it very short-lived. And as I say, there was a demand. And the people that signed up with pre-orders, they'll get notification beforehand. But you guys are getting the exclusive. They go on sale on Wednesday. People can buy into that. But look, it's a bit of fun, and it's not taking the hand of people. That's very important. We're not taking the hand. We're making sure it's accessible. We want people to enjoy it. We know that there's no profit being made on these things, It is literally just making it happen for the community and the wider community. I do have some other cool things that are in the pipeline. I don't know, Marty, if I'd been talking to you about them, but they're fun, really fun things. At the moment, yeah. So at the moment, you've got some really exciting communities building up on social media just now. So you've got like a friend of Middleton. You've maybe got and for Scotland, you've got friends of Bruichladdich. Now you've got the Cologne cult. Sounds a little bit dangerous, but you've got these online communities that are building support. You've got I think you've got a similar one for Dingle as well. You've got all these. He's shown off. Stop showing off, Justin. He's shown off.
No, you couldn't believe where we have communities. Listen, I've got to show you this. This is going to your screen might go off, but you're still here. What do you see? This we are in the United States, Belgium, Japan, Colombia, Canada, and the Philippines. And the
Philippines even. Yeah. What about Belgium?
But yeah, there's a couple
of. That's pretty impressive.
Watching
us. Got rid of me again. Oh, please tell me you've not got rid of me.
No, I haven't got rid of you. You're still here. Can you hear us?
Log back in again.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Me off.
No, I haven't turned you off. You're going to have to log back in again. Look, you're here. Are you there? Yeah.
Bring me back.
You're still there. 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 Come back. Suck him back in the internet.
He just can't hear us. He just can't hear us. So are we broadcasting to Belgium and Australia and where else?
We're Belgium, Australia, the Philippines, you name it. We are there. You're back again.
I don't know what you did to me.
I didn't do anything to you. Are you watching us at the same time as you're on with us? I don't know what it is.
I don't know because it's on my iPad, so I'm not sure. Anyway, where was that? Listen, that here you've got what's the crack you're having from Belgium? Brilliant, absolutely right. Do you know what? Funnily enough, a mass amount of whiskey is drunk. Irish whiskey is drunk in France. I didn't know this. That the French were one of the biggest consumers of Irish whiskey in the world, and yet it's one of the places we didn't. I don't think we sent anything to France, but I'd like to know what whiskey they're drinking in France, what Irish whiskey it is. But all around Europe, we had orders from Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Germany, loads from Germany, lots of different orders from Germany. But anyway, sorry, I was talking about some plans that we have. So look, I started a wee side project which is called Dramdex, and Dramdex is a company which is designed to make playing cards. Initially, so it's making playing cards. So some of these little online communities will have their own decks of playing cards. So Cologne Cult have theirs. They go live next week. People can, if they're a part of the Cologne Cult, they can purchase a bespoke deck of cards, which is all about Cologne, for them to go and play with. But we also have, and there's a Bushmill set coming out. There's also a Friend of Middleton set coming out. Lots of different sets. But we also have, do you remember Top Trumps?
Oh, yes.
So we have. I've been in design process for months now, designing Top Trumps. So there's a series of cards coming out over the next couple of months. Which there's a Scottish series, an Irish series, a Japanese series. There's a worldwide edition, and there's a rare and old edition. And they're trump cards, but they're also collectible cards. So there's lots of these cards that are only limited runs, very limited prints. But they're supposed to be fun for us adults to have a bit of crack, collect the cards that we collect the whiskies from, and share them, because there's so many cards within the collections that you won't get them all in one pack. You have to go and buy little booster packs, or you have to share swap with your friends for your favourite card. But yeah, a bit of crack, a bit of fun, and it's it's something that a lot of people, when I put the feelers out, have just been like, what, we just need this. It's a bit of fun right now, and they'll start to be showing on social media in the next couple of months. You'll see that. I'm
just thinking of Brendan down in Cologne. The Suicide Kings that they are. The ones with the sword through their head.
Yes.
I can see the Cologne one, that being the Irish Whiskey Association.
Everyone was saying, sure, who's the Joker? Who's the Joker from from Cologne? Who'd be the Joker? But actually, the bespoke cards they're actually really quite smart. The Cologne ones, and they're on the face card. They are 52 individual pictures of Cologne, and something to do with Cologne. So it's they've been well designed. But the top trumps ones I've actually used as an artist based in Belfast. We've used to manipulate the images of bottles to make them look really funky and really collectible as a piece of art, itself. But and I suppose the other thing, Marty, and we only put out for this, and that's only, I suppose it's only within the community. This is an Irish whiskey community, idea. But we've already got I think it's about 30 people now signed up to this, which is do you remember during the festival week I did an experimental cask section? I used Buckfast and Iron Brew and WKD and rum and stuff. I was messing about. I was having a bit of crack, but that took on a whole new life. People were asking me, "Oh, where did you get the wee cask and how did you do it?" And why? I was like, "Well, it was pretty simple. They're not that overly expensive. You get them. We brought them in from." They were Hungarian, so they're Hungarian virgin oak, 2 litres, and so the guys that we sourced that with, Whiskeycraft IE, a guy called John Daly. I also then have the relationship with him to bring in 2 litre Hungarians and 5 litre Hungarians and French oak as well, and so we now have we have a group of people now who are going to be taking on these little casks and using new make spirit from Irish distilleries. Lots of different types of new makes, so pot stills or peated whiskies or stuff, and doing some, some home, experimentation so we can share it amongst the community.
Absolutely. I mean, I take my hat off to what you've done with the whole Belfast Whisky Club and festival and all that kind of stuff. And I just want to put a wee shout out as well to the Friend of Ham and Molly Jack and that, because it was in the news recently, obviously, that the Duke of York has basically closed.
Yep.
And he's laid off. Now, knowing Molly Jack, that wasn't a decision he would have took lightly.
No.
I mean, he has a staff that worked for him for a very, very long time because he treats them extremely well, which kind of goes to show you just how poor the hospitality sector is in Northern Ireland at the minute. And
yes,
I mean, it's just horrific.
Do you know what? We've got major partners now with the festival, but and I do mean that when I say major partners, we do have likes of Hastings Hotel are a backer of the festival. They see it as having longevity and something which is important to Belfast as a city. That's important. However, the Friend at Hand, and obviously the Duke of York, but that grouping, and yes, Willie Jack and Paul O'Hare, who have been instrumental in supporting the festival for the previous 2 years and now going forward continuously. Yeah, I mean, we really want to be making it quite clear that the relationship we have is huge, and we talk about it all the time. One of the boxes specifically is just Friend at Hand product. So it's only product from the Friend at Hand. The only exclusive place that you can buy it. It's the only place you can purchase it, and they have a new Middleton to be released. I mean, it's not been released yet, and that that'll be happening in December. He's he has made some major decisions, but it's just like every other bar in the whole of Northern Ireland, and I suppose in Ireland in general. We're looking at a situation whereby it is so difficult for them to get the balance right. You cannot just open up and expect just expect people to come, as well. That's not going to just happen. So no, fair play to Willie Jack. He will make the right decisions. He'll open when he has to open, and his staff are, his staff are loyal staff, and they've been working there for a long time,
And it's just sad that we're in the situation we're at the minute, but thanks to people like yourself and doing the Whiskey Festival, there is little bits of things that we can do like this, and people can get a drink and go online and Zoom and all that kind of jazz and thing, But I'm very conscious of time.
Yeah, sorry, John.
No. It's all right. It's fine. It's fine. It's just for putting it to Instagram, it needs to be under an hour. You see, so I have to cut 5 minutes of me out so that.
No, see that. That's where you lose me is perfectly fine. But listen, no, Justin, I want to say genuinely thank you very much for having me back on tonight. That would be great. But what you guys are doing is important. So yes, look, I might be trying to run some cool events, and that's dead on. But actually, this is more to me. This is really meaningful. This is great because people are tuning in. they're tuning in either live, listening to what's happening, or they're watching this back at certain times. That's been great. You know, that's listen, it is good fun. And so, the snippets, I'm telling you, Marty, it's the snippets. You know, you don't forget those little bits of information once you've been told them. So thank you very much for that, because it's just kept me sane.
There's over 25 hours to watch at the minute. 25 hours of back catalogue to watch every aspect of it, of whiskey, air, earth, fire, water. I've just uploaded them to Instagram. We've added 100 people on Instagram in about 48 hours. You know, so we've only started the Instagram. So there you go. But listen, all the best for Festive Whiskey Week, and thanks very much. All right, we'll call it a night. 9-8.